What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Base Damage. Hope you're all doing well. Happy New Year again. The first deck profile of the year, I wanted to post an 8 standby build. You know, obviously nothing that y'all haven't seen before on the channel. But this deck in particular is my own twist on the 8 standby Hololive deck with Azki and Polka. This is a deck that's actually been topping a whole bunch. For the most part, it's fairly budget. The most expensive card in here, and if it's changed since I've recorded this, I am very sorry, but I want to say this Mio is the only like super expensive card in here. I want to say it's like $6 a piece now at the time of recording this. I could be wrong. We're going to look to Future Me for that one. Thank you very much, Future Me. Otherwise, the rest of this deck is cheap as fuck. So, I mean, if you wanted to put this deck together and just try to find like a close replacement, this is such a powerful level 0. You want to run this if you can, but if you can find a budget replacement, go for it, because this deck is so fun. It's a very nice, what I like to call standby toolbox. It has a bunch of different utility cards that just end up working together super fucking well. That I the first time I looked at this, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And then I slowly started piecing the stuff together and went, that's how this works. Okay. And there's multiple variations of this. We're going to get into the card effects in just a second here. But there are multiple variations of it. This is just my particular version with some of my tweaks that I wanted to put in just to kind of help round things out. But let's get into it. Starting with the level 3s. We have a bunch of one-ofs with the level 3s. The only one that we have a playset of is this particular level 3 Luna, and it has some very fun shenanigans going on we're going to talk about in a moment. But we got to start with Fubuki. It's a 3/2 10k Foxy Day to you. When this card attacks, you can pay 1 and discard a card for her to gain 2k power for the turn, and the ability, for the rest of the turn, the ability, on reverse of the battle opponent, burn your opponent for 1. So really cool there. Some extra little bit extra burn. Her and the Azki do some lifting in terms of that. And she has an effect that states, at the beginning of your opponent's draw phase, if this card is in your center stage, choose one of your characters and that character gets plus 4k power until end of the turn. A little bit extra buffing for defensive stuff. Kind of nice. Then we have one copy of this 3/2 10k Festival Drawings Natsuhiro Matsuri. You may not drop this a whole bunch. It is here for a fear factor. This card, the first effect is why most Hololive decks run this card. It says, when this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, your opponent puts all of their stock into their waiting room and puts the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. Very reminiscent of Buns for Luck from Bang Dream. And it also has an ability when you use an act for her to gain a buff 1,000 times the number of your opponent's backstage characters. Sometimes the buff comes up, but that's if you even summon it. 9 times out of 10, you are searching and grabbing this card just to show your opponent that you have it. You'll probably drop it on some people, but because of that stock swap effect, they're going to look at it and go, shit, I can't sit here with like 12 clean stock and not expect to get smacked, in the face with this effect. It's very much a thing of, you show this to be like, I'm watching you. It's kind of a threat more than anything. So it's very good to have. You'll probably drop it on some people, but it is a threat more than anything. So then we have this 3/2 8k Aki Rosenthal. This is a very fun card. It has a very fun interaction with an event coming up that we run. It has 8k, but if you have 1 or less cards, she gets plus 10k power, making her an 18,000. Fucking Attack on Titan, eat your heart out with the grab ass and smile combo. And this also has great performance, which is when your opponent attacks, if this card is in the middle position of your center stage and not reversed, your opponent has to frontal attack this card instead. So she's kind of like a tank in that regard. She pulls the attacks away from the left and right, and they have to frontal her. Now, the event is going to make her live, and we'll get to that event in a second here. Actually, I'll go ahead and talk about it after we finish this. Her last effect is, when this card attacks, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's characters and put it into their waiting room. So, a little bit of removal, kind of spicy. You got a whole bunch of extra climaxes in hand. Fuck it, why not? But I am going to go ahead and bounce to this first. The event that we run is this red 2/1 backup event, which is hashtag Hololive 0th generation. You get to choose one of your characters, and that character gets the following 2 abilities until end of turn. The first effect is, during this card's battle, you cannot receive damage by auto effects of your opponent's characters. The second effect being, she can't become reversed. So the combo being, if you drop this on the Azki when the Great Performance effect is active, not only is she not going to be reversed, but say your opponent has, like, I don't know, 2 copies of Gura staring you down, or any massive, like, major burn effect. Assuming they, like, say they attack with another character first to build up stock, you drop that event. You cannot take damage from those auto effects for the rest of the turn, which is just absolutely crazy. Amazing combo that just a lot of, because any of the burn effects are all auto 9 times out of 10, unless you're using an act, that somehow is like pay a cost burn, that's whatever. But auto effects, they can't use the auto effects to do that. They have to somehow get rid of her and then, like, get past her on that. But because they can't reverse her, you can't just kill her with that and then be like, oh, the effect's no longer active. No, she just can't become reversed for the rest of the fucking turn. It's hilarious. Moving on, so that's the cool interaction with that. But moving on to the Himamori Luna is a 3/2, 11,500. She is massive stats on this, and she's an uncommon. This is the backbone of the deck. This has like 4 different effects up here. It's just hilarious. This has, the first effect states, this card gets -3 level while in this stage, making her count as a level 0. The character facing this card cannot side attack, so it forces your opponent to frontal, and she can die to level 0 reversers. But I've noticed that a lot of people don't run level 0 reversers, at least like the ones that are topping. I mean, I'm certain it's there every now and then, but you don't really have to worry about level 0 bombs or reversers that much. The biggest thing is this effect makes her count as a level 0 on the stage, meaning she can't be anti-changed. I'm going to say that again. You're going to stand by this bitch in, and your opponent's going to be like, oh, I'm just going to use my anti-change backup. And you're going to go, on what target, good sir? Because anti-change has to target a character whose level is higher than your level. But she comes out as a level 0. I was about to say at level 0, and that's incorrect. But she comes out as a level 0 the second she hits the stage. Meaning she can't be touched by anti-change effects, which is fucking hilarious to me. It dies to a level 0 reverser if your opponent runs that. But all of their like anti-change cards, and like, oh, you're running standby? I know to go ahead and get this in my hand. Too bad it don't do jack shit now, brother. The other 2 effects are, when the card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you can discard a Hololive character to burn your opponent for 1. And when she gets frontal attacked, which is forced because of the first effect, you look at the top card of your deck and put it on the top of your deck or into your waiting room. So you get to mill a little bit, even though we know that mill runners don't help you cancel. So next we have 1 copy of Embarrassed Princess Himamori Luna is a 3/2, 11k. And once again, the Lunas are just huge, and there's more buffing effects in here that just make them very hard to deal with for your opponent. If your waiting room has 6 or more climaxes, this gets -1 level while in your hand. So she has an early play condition, even if you don't stand by her in. But it's kind of an awkward condition. It's whatever. This card gets -3 level while on stage, and the character facing this cannot side attack. So once again, she counts as a level 0, but she also forces you to frontal, which is hilarious to me. Also, if I didn't state already, she has 3 soul, just stating. When this card is placed on stage from your hand, you can discard any 1 card. If you do, choose a Hololive character in your clock and return it to your hand. So it heals, but it heals to hand, which is really cool. And that also gets around most heal tag stuff, so really cool. 1 copy of that. 1 copy of Miko Art Sakura Miko. It's a 3/2, 35. She's a 2k assist in front, really nice, a heal 1 on play, and a brainstorm of pay 1, tap 2. You mill 4, and for each climax, search your deck for a Hololive. Most of the time, you're just going to like be summoning her for a little bit extra buff in the back row, but sometimes the brainstorm comes up. Then we have 1 copy of this Together With You at the Beachside Town Azki, which is kind of an off finisher for this deck. It has multiple purposes, but it's a 3/2, 10,500. First off, it's a global 1,500 to all of your other Hololive characters, which is just nice to begin with. And at the beginning of your encore step, if this is in your center stage, and there are no characters in your opponent's center stage, or all their characters are reversed, you can discard 2 cards. If you do, deal 1 damage to your opponent, and then you look at the top card of your deck, put it on top of your deck or into your waiting room, and she gets an additional 1,000 power till the end of your opponent's next turn. So being able to have a little bit extra burn is nice, and you get to top check, like obviously this is during the encore step, so you get to know what the very top card of your deck is going to be. So you can use that to your advantage, and you're like, oh cool, let's, it's not a climax, toss it into the waiting room. It is a climax, so let's leave it right there so we know that the next attack is getting canceled. So really nice, and like I said, the extra buff is just really good as an off finisher. That is it for the level 3s. We're going to go on to the level 2s, and like I said, we already talked about the event here, but I just want to state again, this is a very fun event. We have 2 copies of it. And we have one of the more fun cards of the deck. Things in this world are too fragile, Amane Kanata. 2 copies of this 217K. When this card attacks, it gets 1,000 power times the number of your other Hololive characters. So she'll get a plus 4k with the full field, so she'll become an 11k at level 2, which is really crazy. But she also has a very fun ability. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can pay 1 stock. If you do, choose this card and one of your other Hololive characters and exchange them as standing. So this does something very, very fun. You have this out, you go into level 2, you stand by in a copy of this Luna into the back row, and then at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you just swap it with this. So now that the Luna's in the front row, and they're forced to frontal, they're forced to deal with this, like the insanity that is this level 3. So yeah, there you go. So this is a very, very, very fun card. But continuing on, we have 1 copy of Research Result Hakui Koyori. This is a 2/1 3k backup, and it has the memory kick effect. Choose one of your characters in battle. The character gets the ability until end of turn. When the battle opponent becomes reversed, put that character into your opponent's memory. Fun fact, if you do that on the Azki, you can just make all 3 of their characters more than likely just go to memory, be done. It's just hilarious with the great performance ability, basically. Not saying you're going to want to do that, but if they have some annoying shit, it's like, why not? Then we have 2 copies of Wishing for a Future with You, Iris. I thought this was a really fun inclusion because other versions of this deck don't run 2/2s for their standby. They're mostly running other stuff. I wanted to include a decent level 2 target. 9 times out of 10, you were trying to summon this Kanata. If you wanted to drop like a copy or 2 of this Iris for another copy of this Kanata, go for it. That is up to you. 2 seems to work pretty damn well, but I wanted a little bit of extra muscle. So this 2/2 gets 1,000 power for each of your other Hololive characters. So with a full field, she's at 10/5, and she has 2 soul. At the beginning of your encore step, if you do not have another rested character, you can pay 1 stock to rest her. So she is basically, if your whole field were to get wiped, she has a 1 stock encore, which is hilarious. So 2 copies of that. 1 copy of the Hachima Beam, Akai Hato. It's a 2,500 backup, but it is also what people refer to as the rest counter. When you use this card's backup, you can pitch 4 Hololive cards from your hand to choose one of your opponent's characters and rest it. So if it's a character that they haven't attacked with yet, you forcibly rest it so they can't attack with it, which is hilarious. It can save your bacon a whole bunch. So lastly, for the level 2s, we have 2 copies of this A Step Towards the Future Pecora. It has 3 effects, but because of the blue, and it just, you don't run it for the other effects. You run it for just the first effect. It's a 1,500 assist of the characters in front of it. That's literally the only purpose of this. Because if you can put copies of this in the backstage to buff your level 1s to make them like 9Ks, it just makes the game a hell of a lot easier for you. So just 2 copies of this, you just run it for the assist. That is it for the level 2s. The level 1s, we only run 2 level 1s, but it is Nikiri Art Scrolls Ayame. This is not the level 1 Ayame that is banned. That is a different card altogether. It's a 1/155, but as long as you have 2 or more other Hololive characters, she gets plus 2k power, making her a 75, and she has character encore. Your typical standby target. We have 1 other, which is the A Step Towards the Future Omaru Polka. 1/155. You have 2 or more other Hololive characters, she gets plus 2k power. But she also is one of the climax combos of the deck with the A Gelato for You. When the standby is in play, On attack, she can add back a character, a Hololive character from your hand, or from your hand to your hand, and gets an additional 1,000 power till end of turn. But the character that you add back has to have a level equal to or lower than the number of cards with different names in your memory. Now, that being said, there are no other cards in here that go to memory. So you're basically just using it to grab level zeros, but the level 0 lineup in this deck is stacked as fuck. So it's it's very understandable that you just want to add the level zeros back to hand. I completely understand why people run this. So it is very, very fun. But so we have a whole bunch of nice level zeros. Let's get into it. Enthusiastic Summer Natsuiru Matsuri. This is from the trial deck. I think this was like $3 or $4 a piece. It might only be like 2 or 3, but anyway. It's a 001K. On play, you can put the top 3 cards of your deck into your waiting room. You get to mill some stuff and possibly set up some standby targets. Very nice. Otherwise, it is a level 0 stock bomb. When this card becomes reversed, if the battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you may put that character into your opponent's stock. If you do, put the bottom card of your opponent's stock into their waiting room. So just very nice bomb. And this is also helpful in the mirror match. Because if you go up against another Polka deck, you have the reverser necessary to get rid of their Polkas. Not their Polkas, but their Lunas. I was like, I don't know why I was thinking Polka. 4 copies of that. 4 copies of probably the best fucking card in the deck. Relaxing by the Pool Okami Mio. It's a 00500. This card does everything you need it to. When this is placed on stage from hand, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 2 cards from amongst them, put them back on top of the deck in any order that you choose, and put the rest into waiting room. 9 times out of 10, you're just like, okay, cool, I see characters, send both of those characters to the waiting room. You basically just try to make it so you're digging closer to to a climax or something to get more standbys off. But her second effect, which is when this card is placed on stage from hand or put into the waiting room from the stage, you can pay 1, pitch 1, search your deck. She's a on play and on death searcher. So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have this sitting in the back row, and if you trigger a standby, you get to pay out that standby immediately because you'll go trigger the standby, summon something over top of her. So she dies, she goes to the waiting room, and then you're able to pay the cost immediately and pay that standby out of your stock, which is really nice. So this is extremely useful. I understand the price tag for this card. Even in other decks, it's amazing, but in this deck specifically, it's crazy. 2 copies of Professor of Manners Tokoyami Toa is a 001K. When this card attacks, choose one of your other Hololive characters, and that character gets plus 1500 power and character encore until the end of your opponent's next turn. It doesn't come up with so much, but it is a nice card, because this level 1 Polka does not need to reverse, true, but it also doesn't have the character encore or any kind of encore that most of the level 1 standby targets have. So if you can use the Toa to, 1, give her extra buff, which is just very nice, but you get the salvage back on hand. It's kind of whatever, on hand. You get the salvage to hand on attack, so you don't have to worry about reversing. But then you can still give her an encore, which is great. So try to get the effect going multiple times. So 2 copies of that. 2 copies of this encore just for 2 Omaru Polka is a 002K. It has 2 effects that both activate when you play a climax. So the first is when your climax is placed in your climax area, you can bounce this back to hand. Look at the top card of your deck and either put it back on top or put it into your waiting room. So once again, more filtering off the top of the deck. You're trying to get targets off. You're trying to really set up for more standby plays. So, and then choose one of your characters and it gets 1500 power till end of turn. So extra buffage, always good too. The second effect is when your climax is placed on your climax area, you can pay 1 stock. If you do, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose 1 Hololive character amongst them, add it to your hand. So the rest go to waiting room as well, so it's very nice to be able to get back resources. She's also bouncing back to hand as well, so you're able to maintain a good bit of hand advantage. And because it's when you play a climax, when you play your standby, she opens up a slot if you need to be able to summon a character to the back row or something. So very nice. Very underrated. I feel more people need to know about this card. Next is the other climax combo of the deck, a step towards the future Azki. It's only 2 copies in the deck, but it works. It's a 002K. When this card is placed on stage from your hand, choose one of your other Hololive characters, and that character gets plus 1,000 power till end of turn. The climax combo is return this card to your hand and sack the Repeat This Life with You, this particular standby right here. Now, even though you sack the standby, you still get to summon off of it. So she goes ahead and gets the standby into the waiting room, and then she bounces back to hand, so you have an open slot and you're still able to summon off of that standby. Just wanted to state that. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 Hololive, add it to hand, and shuffle your deck. So there you go. And then lastly, we have 2 copies of Valentine for You, Yuzuki Choko. It's a 001K. When this card is placed on stage from hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is an event or a Hololive character, put it into your hand. Then you get to discard 1 card from your hand. So it will basically never whiff unless you see that it's a standby. And if you see that it's a standby, you just get to plus off of that, off those triggers. Otherwise, she has an act, which is pay 1, sack this Choco, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose 1 Hololive character amongst them, reveal it to your opponent, add it to your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. So hand filtering, more milling, more plussing, just very, very nice. So, and obviously we talked about the event already. 4 copies of Repeat This Life with You and 4 copies of A Gelato for You. So that is going to be it for the deck. I really, really like this deck. I am still extensively test playing this, tweaking ratios, but this is the ratio. These are the ratios that I've currently settled on. Feel free to check out the deck. A link will be in the description. I think this is a very, very fun deck. I know it has some awkward matchups in some cases, but I don't fucking care. I like having fun with 8 standby. So with that, thank you all very much for watching. It is greatly appreciated. Please like and subscribe if you want. If not, hey, thanks for stopping by to check out the deck. It is once again greatly appreciated, and we will see y'all on the flip side. Peace out for now.